Okay, I've got the nod, so I'll do the same for you. I'd like to say good evening to everyone tonight. Welcome to our second in a series of open houses. We were in Commanda last week, south end of the township, and we're here tonight. First of all, I'd like to introduce our moderator this evening, and it's Steve MacArthur, and he will be running most of it. Let me also introduce staff members here tonight: Kristen Linklater, Will Bateman, and Chris Crosby-Hodgins. Members of the council here tonight: myself, Tom Piper, councilors Dave Yam, Shelley Foote, and Tom Butler, and Steve Kirky sends his regrets. And again, this is a discussion of the strategic plan, and a strategic plan is something that every council has. It's a guide to the next council term, which is 4 years, or in this case, we're down to 3.5. So it's what we want to see or attempt to accomplish in the next 3.5 years. And it changes with every council, because I assure you, every council changes. So I'll turn the floor over to Mr. MacArthur. And again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. And Steve, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to stand up because I tend to move when I'm talking and nervous habit, and I'm cold. Everybody else cold in here? Not yet. Maybe it'll get up. Thank you, Mayor Piper. My background, a little bit, I work for the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. I have for the last 8 years. Prior to that, I spent a couple of decades at the City of North Bay in various capacities, including as a senior land use planner and economic developer. So we ran a lot. We wrote an official plan. We ran a lot of strategic planning exercises and things of this nature. And so Mayor Piper asked me to come out and just try and help moderate the evening and get things going and flowing and get people talking. As you mentioned, we had a good session in Commanda last week. It was respectful, lots of good input that the staff and the council took away. And I can assure you that that's going to form part of the revisions to the plan. So we're going to walk, the format is we're going to walk through these various sections of the plan. If you have anything to say, please raise your hand. I'll point you out and try and keep it in the order when people raise their hands. And they'll be recording this and taking it out, taking it back. All right. And if there's something that's, we're going to try and limit the comments to a few minutes. We have a couple hours to get through this. We respectfully request that you try not to identify property owners or individual properties. All right, when you're speaking to the council tonight, there's obviously an opportunity to do that directly to the staff in the township office. This is really about the strategic plan and the vision for Nipissing for the next 4 years and beyond. So with that, I'm going to jump into the slides. Good, thank you. And you always start the exercise, whether it's official plan or strategic plan, with your 30,000-foot view of the community, and that includes your mission statement and your vision statement. And really, these are your overarching kind of, how does the community feel and what's it look like and what do you hope to see? So reading it, the Township of Nipissing is dedicated to maintaining its rural township atmosphere and its safe, healthy environment through the provision of effective and efficient government and planning for the benefits of residents and visitors. Pretty straightforward, pretty overarching, real high level. I don't know if anyone has any input. This is the thing, and again, the idea of the strategic plan is to update it and change it if and where necessary. So there's no initial comment on the mission statement. We can just move forward with that. Vision statement again. The Township of Nipissing is a proactive community that respects and protects its history while enhancing and embracing the needs of residents and guests and the opportunities provided by its natural resources. I said in Commanda, and I should restate it here, I've got the opportunity to very fortunate to have 35 years visiting Pine Drive in the summer every year. So I'm a big fan of Nipissing Township. So and he jumped at the opportunity to come down and try and help. And that last line, obviously provided by its natural resources, that's what this township is all about, the natural beauty and the, obviously the south shore and other areas as well. Anyone see anything there that jumps out at them that is missing in terms of just community statement? Any approach? Good. Okay, so we're going to jump into these various sections as we talked about. The very first one is about economic development. This is really about the growth for the community, the growth for the area, what you want to see happen. And one of the major focuses in the last strategic plan was about internet and cell coverage. We all are aware, especially since the pandemic, that changed the way everybody operates. I was lucky enough to work for an organization that was well set for that, and it allowed a lot of people to work from home and continue business. So I do have, since the last update on this, high-speed service builds strong communities as residents and businesses of all types are becoming more reliant on broadband internet for their daily activities. Availability of these, I'm paraphrasing, of these services will facilitate telecommuting, remote work to accommodate home-based employment and improve student access to web-based resources for homework and distance education. So Chris has a little update on some of the focus of the strat plan and what's happened since that was originally written.
Yes, Bell has notified us that they are bringing fiber to the entire area, so that should be completed by 2025.
Everybody who's been on Bell Fiber, that high-speed internet service is wonderful. It's pretty reliable, and it's a big investment for township size Nipissing. So that option, and as well, I believe Starlink is still in the community. So that's a little update on that. The objectives of that particular section continue to advocate the need for full access to high-speed internet and cell phone coverage, identify key contacts of major cell phone suppliers and communicate the need, and collaborate through Blue Sky and other municipalities to see broadband improvements. So I think you can check the box on that one and some progress on that as well. Comment, concern about any of the internet cell coverage?
Were the key contacts identified for the cell coverage in the previous plan?
I'm gonna defer, I'm not sure.
Contacts for,
For the different companies?
Yeah,
no,
okay. That was in the previous plan, correct?
No, this is the plan right here. That's what I'm reading it from. So it just said to identify the key contacts of major cell phone suppliers and communicate the need to secure basic cell services and non-serviced areas of the municipality.
I noticed in our area that now that our self-service has really gone down bad. From what it is now, it's worse. It has not improved it. Major suppliers really don't.
I can't get a landline that works.
We're recording all the comments, so it's good feedback. And obviously with the investment that Bell made, and there's going to be others that follow, I'm sure, but I know they did that, spent tens of millions in Northern Ontario so far, breaking 5. So that could be a major change for the area for sure. And that's physical cable, that's Bell fiber optic cable that they're on streaming, right?
Just on an ordinary landline now, it's just going correctly all the time. I've had it about 4 times to fix it, and they're charging me $98 a month for a landline. It's ridiculous.
Can you get cell coverage where you are?
It's not consistent. I don't know what to do.
one of our,
Yeah.
We moved here, we got 3 bars and gas over in the basement. Not a chance now. Hold on, I have to go outside. In the baking rooms.
Makes you wonder, it's the number of people, right?
Yeah.
Probably.
Something hasn't improved.
Thank you. The next section on the home occupations and the home industries. We had a good discussion about this at the Command Center meeting, but from the public meetings, it continues to be apparent that home occupations and home industries are alive and well in the Township of Nipissing. continue to promote and or update the township webpage, youth retention, development activities that foster a feeling of belonging to a place. So pretty, overarching comments. What I think, what the council wants to hear is, are there things to support home business, home occupations, home industries, what that can be part of the strategic plan, possibly the official plan or even zoning bylaw that help to foster that economic development opportunity, and whether there were any comments, whether it's from young people or, yourselves or kids, if there's anything that anyone wishes to add to that particular topic. Warren. Yes, ma'am.
So, quick question, if I run a small business out of a room in my home, like on the computer, are you charging me commercial taxes for that?
Nope.
Okay, but if I visibly have a business on my property, if I run a repair shop or something like that, I would have to get it rezoned.
You have to look at what your current zoning is and what your permitting.
Oh, I don't have that.
No, just that would be.
But had it only been did, we got it taken off, but because the previous owner ran a business from there. I just want to know, because some, in all fairness, the official plan in every municipality is different. Municipalities, if you run a business from your home, they want commercial taxes. It doesn't matter if you sit at a computer in your bedroom or your, and they would never know because you never have clients coming and going and all that kind of stuff. They want their bite of their apple, and I wanted to know where you stood on that. Not right now.
No,
Good.
no. And again, when we go into building and that kind of stuff, if you're building a business, like a physical, brick and mortar business, in certain cities, there would be development charges to do that, to build your business. We don't have development charges in Nipissing.
Yeah. Thank you.
One of the good parts about having home-based business and home occupations, those small operated out of a room in your house, is that it becomes an incubator for your township, right? But a good problem to have would be too busy to outgrow that space, and therefore need to move to a commercial space or something like that, where the township could support that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Especially for young people trying to start a business or do something along that line. So, thank you for that comment. Any other comments on the home industries, home occupations? And we're speaking exactly of this woman mentioned, which is operating on a home, whether it's a massage therapist or something, on that one, sewing, whatever it is. Okay. See, big part of the economic development pillar in the strategic plan is tourism. Tourism brings in, there were stats included in the strategic plan that said every $1 million spent by tourism creates 13 jobs and generates 604,800 in wages and salaries. So after last time around, after reviewing the township website, the Township of Nipissing has approximately 20 resorts and numerous ice bungalow businesses that operate within the township. And one of the objectives that came out of that was to modify existing accommodation section on the website to include pictures of the tourism establishments. I have a number of pictures of Nipissing Township on my phone. They're calendar worthy, and I'm sure you guys all feel the same way on the properties that you frequent. Yes, ma'am.
Are you including Airbnb and VRBOs, or what are we doing about that business? Thank you.
Yeah, we were going to come back to that.
Okay, when we were talking about tourism, I was wondering if you were looking at expanding that ability.
No, I think, Airbnb or any of the other ones, they're online services that have, they're not promoted by municipalities, certainly, they're private business, and it's been a struggle for municipalities across Ontario to deal with that, especially in Northern Ontario. So we'll come there, promise that it'll come back up. We'll have an opportunity, but from a tourism perspective, are there ideas or thoughts from the group or anyone that thought, boy, you know, it would be great to have this particular event or this facility for the visiting public? Or any thoughts on that this stage?
Just wondered about, one of our resources for the kids, especially who go swimming, has holes. And I wondered if we just put more development into Lynx Beach and Wolf Lake. Just when I look at calendar, for instance, they've got the rafting out there for their kids to swim off of and that sort of thing. And I just, when I went by Lynx Beach, for instance, today, I thought everything's there that should be for safety and everything, but I thought maybe we could perk it up a bit and maybe provide some parking for one thing, and some facilities for the kids to play, like you can walk over quite a ways, so they really need a raft or something to jump off of. But I don't know, maybe have a slide into the water for the little kids and stuff like that. And I know my own kids used to swim down there. I've been where I am for 45 years, so, but it seems to, it's growing up for one thing. There isn't as much beach there. I just think it needs some attention.
Thank you. Excellent. Anyone else on that?
Just going along with the Lake Beach area, I know it's been an issue with over at Party Rock and the fences going in. Great job with the parking lot. Looked like there was going to be good access to the water for some smaller boats. We've had a number of people come by in that area just finding out that they couldn't put their boat in at Party Rock anymore. Where can we put our watercraft in? There's no real direction about that. I know they kind of have the access that's good in the winter time for snowmobiles. Any thought of sprucing up that entrance into the water so that the canoes, kayaks, even small watercraft can get in there and people have a spot to easy recreation?
I know that in preparing for this, and Chris and the council talked about hot button item issues, and that's certainly one. I know that's before council right now. They're investigating. They have a bunch of work going on behind the scenes on the land title and all of that sort of stuff. So we knew if it would be coming up, there wouldn't be a comment on that tonight, but it will come to a future meeting. There will be a resolution in some way, shape, or form. So that's a bit of a party answer, but that's the truth.
No, we understand. And we've seen that there's been some local residents there that have cleaned up that area of their own volition, not from the township. Not criticizing, but I'm just saying some people have taken an interest and done it themselves.
Yes.
And this council, I don't assume previous councils haven't, given any thought to having an event once a year. And it takes a while to get it off the ground, but that will attract tourists, like the Surf Festival in Boston, or the municipality I came from, because it was a very rural community. They got farmers to put their round bales at the bottom of the driveway or in the field, and they dressed them up and made them look like all kinds of things. It's crazy. They look like farm tractors, and but the amount of people that come to the municipality every year, that event over the course of a week, and they go to the local stores to buy food, they go to the restaurants to eat. The municipality usually has an event at the town hall where you can get hot dogs and hamburgers and that type of thing, and it just promotes the community. I just wondered if you've given any thought to that. It's simple, but
It's simple, and I agree, but what you need to do that is something called, and this is gonna come up later, you need volunteers.
Oh, I understand that's difficult in every municipality. And I get that. I do. I totally get that. It's almost impossible these days. But if you, maybe the first year you won't get a lot of people involved and you won't get volunteers, but I think as people start to see it grow and they stop at the farm stand at the end of the driveway and buy a few vegetables, and farmers get something out of it as well. I came from a community down south that was so much like Nipissing, it's crazy. And we still made it work.
But you had more farm,
I beg your
you
pardon.
had more farming? Like it was agricultural versus tourism?
There was both. It was initially a farming community, but it became with the new people moving in, it became, you know, a 2 acre severance and they had a horse or, you know, like that became the reality of what it was. And not every farmer gets involved, but it's a huge success down there. And again, I understand what you're saying. I'm just asking you, if you're looking for ways to bring tourists into the municipality, you've got to be a little bit more open-minded, and you've got to get people, including the ones that are here, to say, yes, I will step up. It's, you really, the volunteers don't have to do anything except let the farmers know that it's happening and this is the week you want it to happen. The farmers do that. They do.
What time of year would you have that?
They usually do it late summer, before school starts, because the kids like to get out and see them. And obviously after May, because the farmers are way too busy right now to be doing anything except getting hay off. If you're interested in finding out more about it, it was Township of Amaranth. And you could get a hold of any one of the members of council and they'll tell you how that happened.
I'll get the spelling later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. The tourism side, the tourism industry is the #1 employer of young people, right? It's especially seasonal, right? So that's some ideas around that. That's a great comment. At the command meeting, someone talked about cycling and engaging that, how important cycling is becoming in Ontario. Anybody who's ever been to the Bruce Peninsula sees all the cycling that goes on in that area. A lot of similarities in the geography around here in the landscape. So that was one that came out of there. And then, of course, the traditional fishing operations and the operations. That's one that I can also. Anybody else on that particular topic? Okay, well, then we'll move on to the municipal services and communications. The first one that's up here about waste diversion. There's a few people in the room who were at the command session. There's a whole section after this that we're going to talk about the current state of the landfills and give some numbers and some projections and some timelines. So at this particular point, most of what was spoken to in the current strategic plan talked about those 2 landfill sites and the operation and the hours, and then a lot about the diversion of waste, right, and the initiative to do that. So continue to capitalize on programs that can generate revenue from electronic waste, continue to investigate and implement procedures to divert waste away from either landfill location, create educational flyers to distribute information with tax newsletter by using the township webpage, continue to participate in the City of North Bay hazardous waste program, use of modernization and efficiencies funding to upgrade capital facilities, improve safety of operations, continue to build reserves for eventual landfill closure and required monitoring, and continue progress on the use of the ad hoc landfill committee to generate new ideas and improve public education program. So there were hits and misses in that, and there was a lot of discussion, which we'll get into when the landfill numbers come on, about the production of waste, the number of bags. You know, obviously there's a difference between residents and visitors, and what that looks like, or operators of facilities, right? And what that means to the generation of waste at the landfill. So with your permission, we'll park that for now and come back, because I think it'll spur some conversation when you see the numbers, if that's okay, Mayor Piper. And we'll move to transportation infrastructure. So what this really refers to is that there's 150 kilometers of roads and 12 bridges in the Township of Nipissing. And as per the official plan, the intent is adequately accommodate transportation needs of the municipality and to maintain these roads in a good state of repair within the financial capabilities of the township. While adhering to the minimum maintenance standards set out by the province of Ontario and adopted by the township. It is not the intent of the plan to assume any existing private roads. So, all municipalities in Ontario now have to pass asset management plans, which talk about the maintenance and the repair of roads and capital facilities. So I know that there's been a lot of work and money allocated, spent on this area. But really what the council would like to hear is that where are they missing the mark? Where are there areas in the transportation infrastructure that people see as a need for an improvement or a need for immediate upgrade? That should be the focus of part of the plan, the strategic plan.
Right now, we're undertaking, we hired a company, don't have the first two letters, but Willis is the company, DM Wills. And they're doing a road study survey right now. So what they'll do is go over all the roads, they'll look at what we need, if you need, again, bigger, if it's too tight a turn, too steep, whatever, work for the number of people on it, that kind of thing, they will come back with recommendations. And then if we have the money, we'll go through with the recommendations. And of course, if we don't, they said to stay on script. I was gonna say, we don't, we'll just hike up your taxes and pay for it all. But no, we'll do what we can. But they're doing that as we speak so that we get some direction. So we know what roads need more service.
I'm sorry, who was the company again?
DM Wills.
DM.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So I've been asked by a member of the community to ask a few questions here on their behalf, as I don't really feel comfortable speaking in public. So last week, when you touched on this bullet point, you made it perfectly clear to the group at Commanda that the Alsace boundary wasn't to be discussed during this meeting. The question here now is why that didn't happen tonight. For me and from the other person, why are we limited to the subjects we're allowed to discuss at this meeting if it is in fact a town hall meeting?
I'll do the second one, then I'll turn the other one over. The answer to your second question is, this is a strategic planning session, and it's about updating and addressing the various sections of the strat plan.
Yep.
So that's not covered in the strat plan. So that's a simple answer to that. It's just beyond what we're trying to get through in terms of just updating the plan, facilitating an update to the plan. The first one I'll turn over to the council. It's not mine, certainly not mine.
And what I can say is we have discussed the Alsace Road ad nauseum and nothing has changed. And when it does change, you'll be the first to know. But right now, there's absolutely nothing changed on the Alsace Road. And so there's nothing to discuss.
It isn't my question, but.
Okay, but pointed out that nothing has changed. We're still in negotiations.
Here, Tom.
Pardon?
You can tell you're really triggered, and I'm sure the rest of the room can too. Why
No,
don't you just
no.
provide an update on that?
The update is, as we said last time, we're still negotiating
Okay.
with the town of Powassan.
So.
And I think Powassan has told you,
Respectful and politeful thing to say would be that, not
Okay.
change your tone in an aggressive manner.
Well,
in front of a group of people.
thank you for pointing that out.
No problem.
Okay,
That is something I could answer because it came up in Commanda. You're right, that there's negotiation with the municipality of Powassan ongoing, financial negotiation. More to come. That's still before, so.
Final question, and I'll leave the room and not steal the show here tonight. But is there going to be, this is from the resident in the community, will there be another meeting to actually discuss the residents' concerns, no matter the topic? Or would that prospect be considered uncomfortable and perhaps inconvenient?
but I can suggest, we had a meeting in Commanda. We have one here in the north.
Yeah, but you're limiting the topics we can discuss. So the community as a whole is asking, and I know other members are too, is there the potential of a town hall meeting where we can discuss anything we like with a moderator such as yourself?
So anytime you want to make a presentation, you're aware that you just apply to council, you can make a presentation on anything that you would like.
You're not answering direct questions. There's members of the
Okay,
community.
there will
that would
not
like-
be another town hall meeting
Okay. fair
because
enough.
we've had one in the north, one in the south,
Limiting,
you know.
limiting what people can discuss.
If they want to discuss anything, they can bring it up to council. Because everybody here isn't necessarily concerned with what one particular group may want to bring up.
Okay.
So we limit that to council and that time.
Is,
Yes.
is the moderator here on volunteer time? Just-
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect.
When a resident makes a presentation, please correct me if I'm wrong. It's not an open forum. You can't ask questions. You're not supposed to ask questions. It's a presentation made by that resident. It is not a public meeting. It is not an open forum. The question that is being asked, and I don't think it's an unrealistic question, is would the council be willing to hold a public meeting, even if it was bullet points around the room? I have an issue with roads, I have an issue with Airbnbs, I have an issue with, where people could come to the council and voice their concerns in a public forum. That's the question that's being asked. A delegation at the council, to the council, can be done at any time, but it's not an open forum. Everybody sitting in the gallery cannot speak to that issue, which you made, or you really did try to make it at the meeting about the Alsace Road. And I appreciate that, having served, and you know, I served on council. So what this gentleman is asking is, are you willing to consider, and it doesn't have to be tomorrow, it would be nice if it was before Christmas. Would you consider having a meeting, whether it's here or in Commanda, that people could come and say, we have an issue with this, and count, even if the rest of the people in the gallery don't have any, I don't have an issue with Airbnbs, but people that live on Ruth Lake, that was very obvious at the all candidates night. People that live on Ruth Lake have an issue with Airbnbs. They should be able to access the council as a whole in an open forum, and that's the question that's being asked.
So what we also have is our complaint policy. And if you have a complaint, whether it be Airbnbs or a bad road or anything like that, and I believe we have papers here tonight, we have them right there. So if you have a complaint, I'm sorry if I'm not speaking up loudly enough. If there's a complaint, if it's Airbnbs or this road or that camp, a lot of that we can't do in an open forum because what we have is so-and-so at whatever on Ruth Lake. So now we've identified an individual, okay? So
Well,
instead,
that's just me. All you have to do for that, I'm sorry, all you have to do for that is
Is say, don't-
exactly what you did tonight.
right,
Don't identify anybody. What are your concerns about Airbnbs? I'm concerned about the noise. I'm concerned about the garbage. I'm concerned about the boats in the lake.
that is gonna come up later.
I understand that. I figured it would.
Yeah.
But in a note, like, I'm sorry, I just believe that you should make yourselves available to the municipality as a group, at least once or twice in a term. I really believe
If I
that.
could help a little bit, the C3 communications 3.2 says exactly, continue to use town hall meetings as required for information.
But they don't hold town hall meetings. That's the issue.
Yeah.
They have specific meetings about the strat plan or the asset management plan, or, and you can't speak about anything else. They need to have an open forum meeting where anybody can go. You may need to know ahead of time. You may need to say, if you want to come to this meeting, please give us a heads up what your concerns are, so that we can kind of put it on the agenda, so it doesn't get out of control. But you have to have open forum.
But if
meetings,
it's on the agenda, why can't it be at a council meeting?
because you can't speak at a council meeting.
But you're making, you've got a 10-minute,
That's a delegation.
I know, but are you not speaking?
You don't allow the community to ask
But the
questions at
community
the council
can't
meeting
speak.
during a delegation.
But the person in the leading the delegation is representing that
Gets
group. are
10
they
or
not?
15 minutes to make a presentation.
Right,
That's all they get to do.
right.
They don't, and something may come out of that presentation that would spark a conversation, but it can't happen because it's a council meeting and the gallery cannot speak at a council meeting. Well, because of Robert's Rule of Order, you're not supposed to, right?
Not
So, I'm sorry, you're asking for input, and I'm telling you as a former member of council for a long time, I think it's very important that you have open meetings. I mean, we had some really hot topic issues where I came from, not the least of which was wind turbines and all that sort of thing. And we just opened it up to the public, and we got yelled at, and we got screamed at, and we got called everything but a pleasant name, but we had no control. And once they understood that the province was pushing that down our throats, that we didn't want them either, it kind of settled down. But it won't settle down unless you give the people in the municipality a chance to speak. That's just my personal opinion.
Sort of. I know, that's okay. I think that we can skip the communications piece when we come to it.
Sorry.
But your point is taken. I think the council heard it and they heard you. Thank you.
Can I ask a question about transportation?
Yes, please.
So according to the Highway Act, we're rural and the speed limit on our roads is 80. That's 60.
60.
The bylaw says it's 60,
Yes.
but it's not posted.
Posted at every entry to the municipality
And how far does those bylaws extend?
for all the municipal roads.
Okay, so why 60? Like, so the signs just went up and, or at least on like Rocky Shore and that, and like that, there's no sidewalks. The road is extremely windy. And there's times we've had to jump off the road not to be hit by somebody.
I've been in the ditch.
Yeah, me too. Like seriously,
I
and,
didn't jump in the ditch.
and 60.
So you think it should be lower?
Absolutely.
Way lower.
Like, I really wonder where 60 came from, like, even in big cities that have sidewalks, the speed limits are 50 in the city.
Some people think it's the 401.
Yeah, like it, and I understand that it's actually not being, policed in any way, really. But, you know, you get a lot of visitors and tourism, and people might look at the sign and go, okay, well, it's 60, I can go 60 along here, but if you drive 60 along some of those streets, you're gonna be in the ditch. And so I really, or a deer jump, yeah.
Thank you for that. There was a comment at the last session as well about lobbying for speed reductions in the Hamlets in particular.
Yeah.
So, the council did hear that, they noted that in the last session, so that's the first to raise it, and it's on their radar. Any further comments on transportation infrastructure? Pull it back for now, before we move on to the property standards. Okay. So the property standards issue, of course, it came up in the last session as well, that there is no existing property standards or noise control bylaw. And made the comment that, even with the bylaw, without the enforcement of the bylaw, passing legislation without enforcement is kind of a futile exercise. And not what that looks like if you're passing that is an enforcement officer or someone, with added responsibility and tasks to do that, which of course is dollars. So they're looking at, in terms of the strat plan, when we talk about property standards with the common sense approach and rural flavor, the objectives that are noted: investigate the implications of the clean yard bylaw, establish clean yard property standards for safety and upkeep to yards and to improve the general aesthetics for residents and visitors, and investigate a standard that will have a focus on keeping lands clear of inoperative vehicles and debris. So that's it's about the limit of the capabilities that exist right now in terms of the resources that exist in terms of property standards. There was some comment at the last session about, enforcement of those property standards and things like that, how does it happen? So, does anyone have a comment or?
We have bylaws, correct?
You?
I have a small question.
Yes.
I was just wondering if anyone actually patrols and keeps track of it. People have like a tear down trailer or something that's gonna burn down, or, because I have personally called with some concern. And we were told that you have to put it in an email with the complaint in writing with your name. So no one wants to do that and have the person that you're saying has this, issues, know that you're saying that. So I just wonder if there's like, do they look around and see what's going on?
Anonymous tip line.
Other than putting your name on paper and handing it in, which that's what people
Does
don't
anyone
do.
from council want to accept this or discuss it?
Well, it's a complaint-driven system, and if we need to have a resource, if we're going to go to legal action, that's how the complaint starts.
Do we not have a reason?
But we don't release that name, okay? We don't say, Tom Piper said, you've got a crappy old car in your lot, you need to move it. We say, there has been a report that you have 12 cars without licenses in your yard. Is that the case? But we never give out a name of who made the complaint. You can still make a complaint. We can follow up on it, but your name's not gonna go out there because, we all know better than that, because that wouldn't be good.
Okay, that didn't come across in the, when I had called.
Well-
Like sometimes people are putting outhouses right on their property line and. it's
So-
unbelievable to-
And again, anything like that, it would, I don't know, building,
Well, we need to know where it is, so we need to know where the property is, and then we send proper resources.
I did tell you directly on my web.
but we need it in writing,
Okay.
okay? Because if not, I can call and say, I'm Joe Blow, and this guy's doing this, and I'm really pissed off about it, and whatever. So if it's written, we've got a written record, and that's all, And it's verified, and it's not that we don't trust people or anything like
Well, you
that.
can see it from the road, but just
Right,
not from the
Yep.
road, that's road.
sure, no, and if you just do that, then they'll look into it, for sure they will.
Yes, sir.
So the stuff that's evident that we all drive by day in, day out in the community, do we not pay a bylaw enforcement officer?
We do, and some of those issues are being dealt with at a legal level right now. They don't happen immediately, and there may not be immediate signs that we're dealing with things, but we are.
Fair enough, thank you.
We've had this situation in my community, in North Bay, for the better part of 2 decades. Everybody knows it well. And it's not an easy thing to take so long to get.
And we can't give out public updates because we can't put anyone's name.
No one's asking for you to.
Okay. Housing, we're gonna jump ahead to housing a little bit. And what this speaks to specifically is that the municipality, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs granted to planning approval to the Township of Nipissing some time ago. And really what that allows us to do is approve planning act applications, whether it's for consent, meaning that you can sever your property if you meet the criteria, or also looking at housing plans and looking at where the best parts of the community are in terms of increase in housing or that sort of thing. So trying to accommodate an adequate supply of affordable housing, which is very difficult in any community, but especially in Nipissing where it's predominantly single family dwellings on larger lots, right? And a lot of times waterfront. So the zoning bylaw update will be continued to be reviewed and updated as needed. The safe, affordable and safe housing for the residents and looking at opportunities where the township can have more control over land use and development. And that's detailed it's in further detail in the official plan, but really what they're asking is, as a community, we looked at the vision and the mission statement, is it something that everybody wants? Does Nipissing want to grow? Do we want more residents, right? Obviously, with more residents, larger tax base. We got some clarification. I believe the gentleman in the back asked about, at the last session about severances. And the severance, the limit of the 10 was in the areas in the rural areas. And that's set by the ministry. And there's no severance limit within the hamlets in terms of application.
Hamlet applications are unlimited. You can also have natural severances, which don't count towards the 10. You can have add-on severances, which don't count against the 10 severances as well. And that's probably why we've never been near our limit, which is 10 severances. And that's what the ministry gave us. So like you said, why, when people complain about something, in this case, no, but you said because the ministry told you had to do that, well, the ministry gave us 10 severances. But
Sorry, is Nipissing housed or controlled by the Places to Grow Act or no? You still are, even though you're just on.
Yep.
No problems.
Oh, it was.
So I think we spoke, yes, ma'am. I think we spoke about that in the last session as well. Bill 23 is, there's a housing crisis in Ontario and they're looking for opportunities for more housing. So given the feedback from the last session, the mayor and the staff went and looked at what exactly the rules are. And to be fair to everyone, it's never come close to the number of severances that are permitted in the township. It's not to say they wouldn't be supported. They look at each and every individual basis, but never been a burning issue. Yes, ma'am.
My question is about providing senior housing projects, like I've seen out in Masterville. Has any of that been discussed? I really think that would be a good thing for our town.
We've looked at it and it's come up before. And the one, Asterville and East Parish, they,
They're on their second.
pardon?
I think they're on their
Yeah.
third.
Yeah.
Right, there's 4 now.
Yeah.
2 is one that's expanded twice and go to 1.
I guess one of the things that we've looked at, just preliminary, and I know you taught at the school, that kind of thing. In order to get the grants, that kind of thing, first of all, you're gonna have to have sewage beds. That's not an issue, but in the only area that we actually own, the township owns, is right beside the yard between the garage and the cemetery. And that would be probably the ideal place, but we have no water there, no potable water. Just like the school has no water resource. When you go to apply for grants, to get the money to build this, that's one thing that holds us back somewhat. So I guess.
So there's no option to purchase other property that has the
Well,
facility?
I mean, there's always an option to purchase more, but again, then you have to study and make sure you have good water. You can put the septic in, and that's gonna cost money, It all does. I mean, it all comes down to money and how much we think that we can put out, And I guess that's my question, or my answer. Right now, what we've looked, we can't put it. And then we would have to go out and buy property, And we haven't entertained the idea of buying property from somebody else. Because right now, property still seems to be at a premium.
Municipalities, the senior housing projects are driven by the market, right? So if there was enough of a market for a private person, right? But that could come up in the next section. It's a good segue into our marketing section.
involved housing. Has council given any thought within the strategic plan, and I do apologize, I haven't been listening, about tiny homes, small homes, whatever you want to call them. There are other municipalities surrounding us that are like, are vehemently saying no. And I'm just wondering, if this council has a consideration in their official plan for tiny homes.
Are you talking about the second, one, like a garden suite
No,
or
you know those
primary?
little things they make out of trailers, the little tiny homes?
Yep.
I wasn't talking about granny suites or anything like that. I don't think that's a huge issue in some of these towns. I think tiny homes in general in the areas are taken. I'm just wondering if that was something in this official plan that you were considering amending.
We haven't looked at that yet. We have a minimum square footage and it's bigger than a tiny home.
Yeah, it will be always.
Yeah,
But we haven't had a large ask for it either.
Yeah.
As the demand comes, then we would have to respond.
Okay. Could be proactive, put it in the official plan now, and that way when the demand comes, the thoughts are already in the plan.
are we sure we want them?
Well, that's up to the residents and council, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
The tiny homes in most communities require, in order to be a livable structure, require a building permit. They require a foundation, plumbing, and all that, just like any other home.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
But
I'm not
if
sure
it's
you have
not, if it's not in your official plan, then the municipality is gonna turn around and say it's not in our official plan, so we can't accommodate it. I think if you're gonna say you don't want them, it should be in your official plan. If you say you do want, you would consider them, it should be in your official plan. If you're doing an amendment, it's gonna happen. If it doesn't happen this week, it'll happen in 5 years.
So you mentioned Bill 23, another area that's become a big part of Bill 23 is the garden suites and the secondary areas, right? And the province is really taking the lead on that, so that's another area to look at.
When you say garden suite, what do you?
Granny suite.
Like a granny suite that has an addition onto your house. Yes, I went through that 20 years ago, trying to get that built, and it was a legal land.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot easier now, but,
now it is.
yeah.
Yeah, province is really.
Yeah, it gets down to the housing crisis that we read about every day in the paper and are looking at it. And that's really what council wanted to hear about in this section, so thank you for those comments. And it is a good segue, we're gonna jump to the marketing, because when we talk about, oh, no, we took it out. Oh, you threw me a curveball.
Sorry.
That's okay. So, the natural heritage features and the historical destinations kind of go to hand in hand, judging by our last session. And what we're really talking about, so the historical destinations, the museums, obviously, there's 2 museums, but the one operating by the municipality is down the street. And, you know, other opportunities for historical destinations or identifying things within the township that are important historically, right? And if anybody had any thoughts on that. And then, of course, natural heritage features, what we're talking about there is exactly what it implies. The beaches, the wetlands, those areas that are of significance, and they're spoken to in the provincial policy statement that all municipalities must adhere to. And they're usually spoken to in the official plan as well. In terms of the strategic plan direction on that, continue to support suitable green energy initiatives. And again, as I said, it must be consistent with provincial policy statement, natural heritage policies that state that natural features shall be protected over the long term, and that the diversity and connectivity of natural features in an area and the long-term ecological function and biodiversity of natural heritage systems should be maintained, restored, or where possible improved, recognizing the linkages between and among natural heritage features, areas, surface water features, and groundwater features. Any comments, or was that just confusing? Okay. Communication, I think we had a good session on communication that was a little ahead of its time. But if there are, I can read to you what it currently says in the strategic plan. Currently, newsletters are created to ensure the flow of information into the community. Although this method of delivery has proven to be effective, citizens still make it a point that information is not being received. Recently, the council utilized public forums at the Township of Nipissing Community Center. The interactive exchange was positive, indicating that the venue was valuable. So objectives identified were to continue to deliver the quarterly newsletter and continue to use town hall meetings as required for information input. We're here to comment on the town hall and how that exchange should happen. Obviously, we're here tonight and we were here last week in Commanda. So those sessions as required happen. Is there anything else from a communication standpoint as the council and staff can do better in terms of getting the word out? Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, the last election. I almost didn't go and vote because I didn't know these people, and I phoned the office and I said, is there an all candidates night? Because I've come to them before, not our job, and hung up, and that was that. I learned from Mr. Butler that there had been an all candidates night out in Commanda. Nobody saw any ads about it, and he said nobody showed up. Well, we didn't see any ads. I'm going, whose job is it, first of all? The next thing, then subsequent to that, how come our election results don't get put into Beta Day? And I mean, they go to Burke's Falls, they go to Sturgeon, they go to Mattawa. We're part of the catchment area for North Bay, and the legacy media is up there. How come we don't get to put our results in? I always end up having to go look, and it's never like if we're trying to communicate to the outside world that we're here and we're really good, and yet some things that are sort of common, we how come that's never ever happened? Are you a media person? Can you answer that question?
It was in there.
Was it this year?
I didn't want to shoot wrap-up story.
See, I never saw it, and I
But
looked and I
It's
looked.
only gonna appear once, though. If you miss it, you miss it.
And what paper?
The Nugget.
Was it? Okay, okay. I don't
Sorry.
get it in the paper
Well,
anymore.
it's online too.
Online, okay.
Both.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm
No,
sorry.
it's okay. On the township side, we want.
The other thing is, no township council, any council in the province is allowed to run an all candidates night.
I would have gladly volunteered, serious, I think I've told Kathy that if I would have known and had a heads up, I would have happily done it for here, because like I say, I don't know these people at all. I recognize Mr. Young because he sent something in the mail and I read it. But other than that, and so I wondered even what our results were like the how many people got out to vote. Because there wasn't an awful lot of information out there, but.
We do have a page on the website that has all of that information from the election.
Yeah, I went in.
And the municipality, the staff don't run it on candidates night. We run the election. It can be viewed as a conference.
Okay,
And unfortunately, we don't have service groups in the area. They're usually the ones that run those events.
okay.
Chamber of Commerce.
Next time, I'll
Yeah.
offer to do it. I promise.
And if we're approached for the use of the community center, the township is willing to work with the group. We
Okay.
just can't organize it.
Okay, no, that's, it's good to know. I'm just raising it because I complained about it.
Thank you. Okay, elections, we heard anything else on the communication front? Is there a method or anything that the town website's updated as regularly as we can be, resources allowing?
There seems to be a lot more on social media from the township. I've noticed from the election onwards, Facebook, simple stuff like that, it has been more information going out. I don't know if that's been a push or concerted effort, but it seems to.
We have 3 staff members, so we try really hard to make sure we get the information out.
And what platforms do we use? Just Facebook?
Just Facebook at this time. on our
Facebook's
website.
just gold parts like that.
Which is fine. I'm good with that.
You compare to the younger ones too. I don't know, what do we call it, TikTok or not?
There's a couple of good things that came out of the last session. One of them was, kind of that welcome package for new people coming in the community, like you said, the old welcome wagon, that sort of thing. Where here's the landfill, here's the hours, here's the, you know, public accesses, that type of information that people might not know, and just make that, you know, transition a little bit easier. So that was part of the communication stuff that came in the last session.
Just to answer some of the stuff from the last session, a night like tonight, probably would have seen a heck of a lot more people in here if it was on the road sign up front.
Thank you. Probably true. Meeting Tuesday, yeah. Okay. Okay, anything else on the communication side? The advertising side, you know, the bullet on advertising really talks about, you know, we talked about the township website, the newsletter, the township vehicles, the signage, the branding, if you will, right? And promoting those areas that are considered heritage in nature. One of the objectives last time was allow one photo to be placed for each business in the accommodation section of the township webpage, showcasing what it had to offer. Upon completion, the result will display a collage of what the township of Nipissing has to offer. And then finally, advertise municipal facilities that the township offers in the newsletters. Obviously budget and, you know, wanting to get the best bang for the buck in terms of the advertising, again, will of the community. So any other feedback on the advertising side of that, or things that other communities might have done that you've seen or effective? Feel the same way about advertising. We can move on to the recreation and tourism then. And really, the community has identified the following areas that would enhance the quality of life in Nipissing Township: and sustainable community facilities, fitness, health promotion, water access, and volunteerism. We'll get to the last one last, and the challenges surrounding that have been identified already. The fitness, health promotion included things like healthy eating, active living, create a happier, healthier community, regular physical activity, essential for health and well-being. People who eat nutritious meals and physically active are likely to live longer, healthier lives. So good health is associated with physical activity 3 or more times a week, making a fitness center or glow here in the township vitally important. It should also be noted that many of the users of the fitness center are from the municipality of Calendar. The Township of Nipissing owns and operates an unsupervised, well-established fitness center at this location. Objectives identified last time: continue to investigate new products that will be beneficial to healthy and active living. Review funding streams like the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program to see if funds are available to install second entrance to the facility, and budget reserves for equipment replacement. So, other fitness and health promotion ideas or thoughts that directly tie into the recreation and tourism section or pillar of the strategic plan are appreciated. If anybody has any thoughts on that.
That, it looks like an outdoor right across from Silicon Bay. Was that Calendar?
Calendar.
I was just hoping. Is there anywhere around here that a pickleball court could be?
Here's East Ferris has one.
Yeah,
There.
well, we know.
We drive there.
You're just wondering if there's anything in the Nipissing area. No.
We'll note it as a desire. I don't know if there's any municipal facilities that would come in.
The parking lot's not being used.
Yeah. Any other
I do
comment?
have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Shelley, I believe I sent you an email requesting information on activities and whatnot for seniors. You didn't bother to get back to me,
So
so.
it has to go on the agenda, so that, because I'm the head of the rec committee, it's gotta go on the agenda, so we have put it forward to put it on the agenda. And to discuss what we can do, when is it going on, well, it's going on,
In this meeting,
this
you are-
meeting's coming up, so we only meet once a month, which is part of the problem, not part of the problem, but which is part of it, right, so. It's going on that agenda is what. And where can we do it, so we're gonna put it back out to the community that says, we can kind of put stuff together, and we're gonna put a survey back out that says, what do you wanna do? We're happy to arrange
Okay,
something,
so
absolutely happy.
I walk to try to stay fit.
Yeah.
And I've already indicated, and I've complained about it. Some people think the road is the 401. We can't get extra speed signs, we can't get walker signs, we can't get slow down signs. Why? Why can't we have those? Everybody else has them. Why?
So
I guess maybe I shouldn't say everybody else.
I was
A
just-
large number of people do have them.
And where would this be?
Chisholm has them, Lawson has them.
And where,
I'm sorry?
yeah, it's still, where would you?
Oh, on the Alsace Road.
So, I mean, I think part of it is putting together something that says, putting a group together that says, hey, maybe we can walk, and maybe. we
I
can
have a
something.
sign in my yard that says caution that I had to make myself.
So we might be able to do something around here, around the township, but it's a group of walkers, put something, and that's what we talked about already. Prior to even going into the next rep committee meeting, we already talked about bringing it up, that it says, hey, we want to put together some walkers, we want to put together somebody that wants to do something. And if we can put something together and facilitate it, I'm a walker. And I'm with
That's
you, I'm a
fine,
walker.
you can have all these groups of walkers, but it doesn't help us when the speed limit is 60 and they're flying around the corner and we're diving. I mean, there's just more targets when there's a whole group of us.
So, and I would be really honest with you, and I, like, we're with them here, so we've, like, I walked down the township with my grandson and my granddaughter, right? We're doing okay, so we hear you. and it
So
is
are there any
definitely-
chances that maybe we could get slow down signs, caution sign, anything? Children playing.
The NCAA will promote down my street. We are working with us.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
We're putting up radar signs, because what the OPP's come back to us and said is basically, prove it. You know, prove it. We don't believe that people are going that fast, okay? So we've got our radar signs, we'll put them, they'll be put it in different areas, like the Alsace, and then we can say, you know, normal traffic down there is driving, now, I would hope 60, but you're saying much faster. And it would also say what time of day these people are coming.
All different times of day.
Yeah,
People
well,
are running late for work in the morning, so they're a little heavier on the foot.
so again, no, prior to work, maybe, so then OPP said, then they will come back and police it.
And they have,
If we show them the proof that people are speeding at that time of day and that kind of thing.
they have set up a couple of different radars on the Alsace Road that I've witnessed. Don't know if they've gotten anybody, but which brings me to my next question. I've complained about the speed, and every time that I do complain about it, I'm being told by the council and yourself to call the OPP. Would it not be more important to have you guys as our elected officials speak to the OPP? and
We've
say-
already done that.
So
We
what's,
have done that, I can't tell you how many times. And then their comment back to us is, do you live on the Alsace? And I go, no. Well, then tell the people affected to call us,
and I have been.
you know, and it's so funny, it's murky, let's put it that way, because, you know, when you say that, then, oh, we haven't had any calls,
Oh, I have my times,
you know,
messages, everything.
I'm sure you have.
Yes.
You know, whether it doesn't get by dispatch, or as we mentioned at the last meeting, the gentleman pointed out that there's 6 officers, OPP between Mattawa, Sturgeon, and South River. And, you know, we're not, they have other very important things to do. Let me put it that way, okay?
10 years
So
ago,
me
we
being
changed
ridiculous,
the
getting
speed
hit by
limit.
cars not work?
10 years ago, we changed the speed limit on the Alsace. It was 80,
No.
which most
I'm sorry.
municipalities are 80 unless otherwise posted. And our office was packed full of people thinking we were nuts, lowering the speed limit to 60. People were yelling at us because we were gonna make them late for work.
So
But
which
not one
one
of them ever stops at the stop sign. We've had stop signs forever out there. Never see anybody pull up to Monroe Park and come to a stop. They might roll through at 25, 30K, but never will you see anybody stop as well. So, or when they get to 534 at the ski hill, they just roll out on the highway, just slow down enough and that's it.
Well, you know what I have to say, in my own defense, I stop at the stop sign.
Well, it sounds like the council and everybody's on the same page on this. We've heard lowering the speed limit in Hamlet, we've heard signage. We've heard what you just commented on about enforcement. And as the mayor said, they're going to have to start tracking by radar. Statistics, yes, sir.
Just out of curiosity, how much are we paying for policing to the OPP right now? Annually?
I believe it was.
350.
Yeah, around 350,000.
So maybe it needs to be considered that we up that so we get more policing. That seems to be a common theme.
That's actually, it's the way, it's not there, that's, yeah, it's a provincial, does, what do they call it, not designation?
Do you actually get a full police officer for a month?
No.
No.
Seems like we're not getting a lot of bang for our buck then.
They give you
Not
like
the
a
half an officer.
It's
So just,
ridiculous.
I'm sorry, just one more question. And I only speak regarding our road. There are several children on our road and not one sign that indicates a bus stop, pickup, nothing. Nothing on our road that indicates there's even a bus that travels it. That's,
Signs that are there need replacing, they're faded and old as well. It's a huge problem.
Thank you.
like, that's protecting our children.
But at the same, and I understand that, but I come out a provincial highway, 534 and 654, where dozens and dozens of children are picked up every day at a speed limit that's 20 kilometers faster than yours, and you'll never find a bus stop sign there either.
So whose responsibility is it?
The provincial government in that case, you know,
The roads are much wider
You
there
know,
too.
roads are wider, the speed's faster, and there's more kids. So again, and as I said when we started, everything's about money. I mean, we could put, you know, every turn, every hill, every whatever, we could put a sign on. First of all, I think if we put all these signs, I don't think it's gonna have a big effect, because the people that are speeding, they don't care, okay? But, I mean,
Then I suggest that the OPP pay more attention to them.
right, at this, so, you know, we're trying to work with the OPP, and that's why we're putting these signs out that will get the data that hopefully we can give to them.
So are you referring to the sign that is on the Alsace
No.
Road now? No.
We have one right now.
Yeah, the one that flashes and tells me how fast I'm, is
Yeah.
that what you're referring
Yeah,
to?
that one, yeah.
We have a second sign, and it's actually right at South Shore School. And we had it there collecting data because we have an issue with community safety zone. Now that school's out, we'll be moving that sign over. I believe it's going over onto the Alsace, further down the Alsace to collect more data. We'll be moving them around the municipality to collect as much data as we can to pass on to the OPP.
Thank you. So, we'll get back to the roads and speed limits, but it's good, good discussion. We're gonna move on to the water access and keep in mind that on the time, we're moving along here pretty good. There's approximately 150 water access lots alone on Lake Nipissing. Although there are private marinas in the south bay of Lake Nipissing, there's only one government dock located at Wade's Landing. Besides residential usage, public water access is also used by commercial resorts for customers of the islands. In recent years, new owners and subsequent generations have begun to make improvements, especially the islands, and to update systems on the islands. Water access is crucial for launching boats, barges, and materials to improve existing properties. So there was some objectives with this, the last strategic plan exercise. Continue dialogues with Ocean and Fisheries Canada to ensure transfer of the public facility.
We did transfer the dock. We own the dock.
Beautiful. We own the dock is now owned. That's the down the wasteland, that's a beautiful looking facility. They include improvements to the McQuabbie Lake ramp at Chapman's Landing in the long-term capital forecast. Public beaches and recent investments in the public beach facilities at Wolf Lake Beach, Wolf Lake and Lynx Beach and Nipissing will ensure these facilities are available for public use in the long term. We did hear from someone who mentioned it would be great to have some additional draws, particularly at Lynx Beach. Comments or on that strategic pillar in terms of water access, other than what we heard on the Lynx Beach and the desire to see some improvements of some facilities there.
I just have a question about the accessible washroom on Lakes Beach. It's been installed, but it's not wheelchair accessible because it's full of sand the whole way to it. Is that going to change? Because you can't say it's wheelchair accessible if it's all sand. Take that back from the motion.
What's the American Beach? I think it was funded by Lions. Sorry. Yeah, there was a, should have said that, Lion Club or something, and they were able to facilitate one of those mats through the beach to the accessible water. So, thanks for that comment.
No,
the runs.
Okay, any other comment on that? All right, volunteerism. No one volunteers anymore. That's the gist of this, right? As much as the community wants to move forward with a lot of these initiatives, there's a volunteer burnout, and everyone's witnessed it. It's always the same people at the same, they're coming to the call. And what can be done in terms of continuing to support and promote volunteerism and community spirit? I mean, you're all here on the summer night, not night, take the time to improve your community, so.
It's air conditioned.
Very air conditioned, but that's a challenge for any of the events that, you know, the strategic plan and initiatives that the council's trying to move forward. Always vote who's going to do it and where's the help and resources coming from. Does anybody have any thoughts? Obviously, in the Township of Nipissing, it's difficult in terms of service groups. You don't have the same draw in a lot of larger centers. You can go to some of those service groups.
And we do have volunteers in here tonight, and we appreciate all of the volunteers. They're great, and they do excellent work, and but we have to look at getting new volunteers, and as I look at several of you here, and how do you retain them, you know? And as a guy said after the commander meeting, well, if you pay us, well, we can do, you're not quite a volunteer, you know? But, and again, when we had people at that meeting that were volunteers and aren't any longer, and when we said, how do you retain your volunteers? What can you do? And it's really tough, you know? Like, I became part of the rec committee this year, and Sunday morning, you're sorting beer bottles at a landfill. And that's part of your job. And you're sorting them because the money goes to the rec committee. Nobody told me there was gonna be bees in wine bottles, okay? That I had to take all the corks out, the ones that were uncorked have bees in them, you know? But you figured it out pretty quick, and that kind of thing, you can hardly wait till winter. But we do well money-wise doing that, you know? You mentioned about, you know, walkers, that kind of thing. They're looking at groups of walkers, but you just want to be safe walking by yourself, you know?
I don't have to be the ditch.
Right, and I understand that as well. But again, for volunteers, you don't know what you do because all our volunteers are, again, they're great, but they're overworked, you know, simple as that. Yes.
Oh, sorry, I'm gonna go to the back here. She put her hand up.
I was just, I know it was brought up at the last meeting, but every high school student gets 40 hours. And maybe I'm not that observant, but I don't remember ever seeing a brightly colored large sign at any of our local general stores or community common areas that says in September or whatever, get your high school hours here in your own community. And I know parents would rather, like, we drive our daughter on Facebook things that she's doing. So if she knew that something was, big for ice cream at the store, there was a big sign that said, get your high school hours doing these things, she would be one of them to have the less.
Thanks for that comment. The mayor did talk about that a little bit last time.
We have gone to the high schools.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Just to comment on that, when we did our strawberry social and our side fest and all that stuff, we had kids come in to serve and do their volunteer hours.
Yeah.
I believe we're still looking to get to help with soccer. And that's been on Facebook forever and ever and ever, just to see if we many comment.
Had great momentum before COVID, and then obviously, like kind of a little volunteer, but it's starting to pick up again. But yeah, it's a challenge. Just the mayor addressed the challenge at the command center, saying that, unlike yourself, who's got a young person locally, a lot of the challenge is getting them to the locations where they have to volunteer, right? So that's a challenge as well.
And I did, Amanda point out for volunteer retention, if you're a soccer coach, it was how many weeks?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. So if you coach for 6 weeks, the end of the 6th week, you get a drinking box, a hot dog, and a freezer. Yeah, you don't get any volunteer hours, but anyway, I don't because it's too old. But you get your volunteer hours and all of that. So those are the benefits. So you are certainly welcome to anybody. We only have 1 more week, but we'll be, if you all want to sign up on the way out tonight, I'll gladly come and get you next year.
It's a good comment on the signage, thank you for that. Good thought.
Yeah.
Anything else before we move on? We're good about 40 minutes and we want to get into the landfill. Okay, so just to wrap up that first part, this section of the plan talks about where do we go from here. Remember, the new goals have been developed in this plan to meet the existing mission, vision, and value statements. We now must move forward with the plan of action. So the idea of all of these strategic planning sessions and all this feedback is to take it back, look at, we've heard numerous times some of the priorities that have been identified by the community, and whether or not they can apply resources to it and make it a part of the official plan moving forward, or if it belongs in another space, another area. One of the major things that we talked about that we said we'd skip over and come back to is the landfill. And there was a good reason for that, generated a lot of discussion at the last meeting. And there's changes required to sustain the landfill and unfortunately, possibly look at replacing at some point in the future, which is obviously cost prohibitive endeavor. So the mayor's going to go through some stats and some figures on the next couple of slides, just to give you the current state of affairs in regards to the landfills.
So you see and it's difficult, but all the stats are up there. Bear Creek landfill updates. It's estimated the remaining lifespan of 4 years. The estimated post-closure costs. So to close the landfill, you have to fence it, monitor it for 25 years for methane gas, cover it, that kind of thing. The post-closure costs are $851,344. We just found this out within the last year. The company that we have a new company. We put out a RFP and we awarded a contract to a new company. And they pointed out that at the time we had 10,000 cubic meters left and we were down to 2,000, which is basically 4 years of dumping at the rate we're filling the landfill now. What we did is we're working with consultants to investigate the expansion of the fill area right now at Bear Creek. If we want to, first of all, you cannot open a new landfill. Can't get a license, not gonna happen. They're gonna pick it up and take it somewhere and charge us a ton of money that we don't want to spend. So what we are looking at is we can expand, we can almost double what our footprint is now. We can almost double. If we double it, then it's a 7-year program if we double it or go bigger. So we have to stay under that. And they hope that they can do that in 2 years. And then we can continue to use that. So we'll add life to the Bear Creek landfill. Now, we did purchase a compactor, but we only got it 3 months ago. So we have no idea how good a job it's doing. It should do an exceptional job. It should buy us more years, but we won't know for a year till the company comes in and they survey it and decide how much we've increased and how much time we have left at our landfill. And we want to point out that, and I said 30,000, but I think it's 33 or something like that, is 1% taxes. So at 851,000, you know that 33,000 or 30,000 is 1%. That's a lot of percents. But we put money in reserve and have been for many years now. The only thing is, we believe we had 17 years left. So we're about 13 short. So we need to extend it that period of time so that the money we have will continue to grow so that we can close without having some huge tax increase, because that's the last thing we want. So that's at Bear Creek. And then what we'll do, Wolf Lake landfill, it's estimated we have 17.5 years. But we can all figure it out. If Bear Creek closes in 4, all that's going to Wolf, and its lifespan will be shortened incredibly. So that's why we are looking at increasing the footprint, keeping Bear Creek open longer. As soon as we get that done, that study, which takes 2 years, then we're going to look at doing the same thing at Bear Creek. We have the acreage there, but again, you have to go to the Ministry of Environment, and the minimum that we can go with is just less than doubling the footprint we have. So we're hoping that we can expand that, because originally we thought Bear Creek selfish thing here. I figured I'll be dead in 17, so I don't care. You know? I hope I'm around at 4, so that's why we've got to work on this, and that's our plan. And that'll open the floor for questions. So if you have questions, just me. Sorry, I'm not the moderator.
No.
Steve, you go ahead.
Why, what happened that you thought we had X amount of years and now we're down to 4? What transpired?
The previous company was just using an average.
Okay.
And it was averaging it over 8 years, but we have really grown, and our garbage has really grown in the last 4 years. And that's why it skewed all the numbers. So the new company just came in and went, okay, and we shot a line here, and you can go to here. This is all you have left. So it was I guess a different way of calculating, you know?
So this, with the previous company and the new one, that's Acon and Pinchin, right?
Pinchin is
So when the previous company was doing this and they were using an average, were they surveying? Was there an RFP? Is this done annually?
Every year it was.
So they were surveyed every year
Yeah.
and still using an average, and we have this huge discrepancy?
Yes,
Okay, so are we going after them financially for that?
no,
Why?
we can't, well, first of all, we can't discuss that because that will be a legal issue and I am not allowed to discuss it. And this is where I look at it, says stay on script. So no, we, right now, have no intent, that they did everything according to what they had told us. We just didn't realize how their calculations were working, okay?
Obviously, as part of that, and to avoid those huge costs, the council and through this process is looking at waste diversion. Like, what can we do to, considering bag limits, there's a lot of discussion at the last session. Landfill cart system, tracks number of bags, clear bags, tags as a possibility. Work with commercial operators, tourist camps, best support the waste approach. There was definitely an issue, but now the issue's identified, and it's like, how do we immediately deal with that as a township, right?
So I understand that when we moved up here, we were warned not to compost in the trucks and fine. But why can we not compost and you have a bin at the landfill site that's like a big, huge, we had them, great big, huge bin, and you put your compost in there, and the compost company comes and picks it up and takes it to wherever to do whatever they want with it. That reduces your amount of waste considerably, because nobody's throwing food scraps and everything else in their garbage. The bears won't like it because they won't be able to eat so much, but it's an option if you're looking at waste diversion.
And it came up at the last meeting and we discussed it. A lot of people also pointed out that they still compost. I know I do, and I see people nodding their heads here that they compost in this area.
By township staff, it was not you, but by township staff, we were told not to compost.
We had a meeting here with Luke.
R&D recycling, previous
And we
recycling.
talked, I asked that question, and he said, well, part of the problem is people put diapers and all kinds of things into their compost that shouldn't be there, and then that creates another aggravation that can't deal with.
So you have to be careful because in Toronto, you do compost diapers and you compost animal waste and you compost female hygiene products. They all go in Greenfish Toronto, so it depends on which company is doing it because like they can compost it.
I believe there's anybody north of there that does that. Because it's not efficient, it's impossible, to put 6 trucks on
Right.
to cover this size of this alley. It's just impossible. If we ask to do it at the landfills ourselves, you're gonna have to buy more machinery, you're gonna have to buy more staff. It becomes inefficient, too costly for a small base that we have.
In the interest of fairness and moving the discussion, there was a discussion about residents who were here, and pay that part of the landfill costs and visitors, right? And so how do you address that? There was some communication pieces that people mentioned, we command a meeting. And then all of the things that you see on those bullets, and, council really interested in your help, your input on what can we do to extend the life of these landfills immediately and put in place. Yes, sir.
One of the things I noticed a lot is that their ice bundle people bring in 20, 30 bags at a time. Where most residents, that's their whole year's garbage. And they do that 12, 14 weeks a year. And most of those ice bundles, a lot of them don't even pay taxes in their state. You gotta really watch that, and I know that our staff is on top of that now, but there's a spot. It's a sore spot, it's huge revenue and how much you give back.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know how it would work right now. We've got our number, we give our number and how many bags, this, that, the other we have when we go to the dump. I know that there are people who bring stuff from family members across the line. They bring it to our dump and they just give their number or whatever. Could we not look at something like, you pay your taxes, you're getting your number, well, here's 52 tags you get to use during the year. Period, that's it. If you want more, you
That's
buy
exactly what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Yep.
And dumping on the road.
Somebody mentioned in the last one that they called it the, I forget what it was, the mattress transition, right? You bring the old mattress from the house to the cottage and then the one in the cottage to the landfill, right?
It's the same thing with fridges. And everybody in this township have a damn new brand new fridge. Because there's so many damn fridges at the dump, that's because people are bringing them down south, up here, and then transferring in 5 years of time. It happens again and again.
Is there a way, and I don't know if it's liability or anything, there's a big sign saying no scavenging, but is there a way to have a section of reusable things, like instead of having to dump them? Because there's lots of times where, like, we drive to the Wolf Lake to throw a bunch of stuff out that actually somebody else might use.
Just because you're updating or something like that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
choice.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
For your kids.
One that got out right there.
Our certificate of authority from the Ministry of the Environment prohibits any scavenging.
Different landfills have different certificates that were granted years before. So if it was a longer, older area that had it for a long time, they can do that. But legally, we can't. Now, it still may happen, but we're not aware of it.
And there are lots of businesses in the area that do welcome used items for resale for different reasons. Where there's an animal rescue place that has a place in Boston that benefits from that. There's Grace House in Boston. This place is close by. Take those items and stuff.
Is there, can we not apply to have that change?
No,
Have we
it
tried?
was granted when we got our license. It doesn't until we change our license, and there are no more licenses. So no, it can't change.
Expand. And if you expand, you're changing your life.
If we expand, then that's a possibility.
Yes.
And that's an ask. That's one of our asks, but we've been told in the past, but only if we get the expansion. We'll know that in 2 years.
I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you are changing your license if you expand, so that's the time to ask.
Yes. Oh, and we're gonna ask about that, and it'll be different. We may have different hours, different days, that kind of thing. But right now, we are the way we are because it's on the license.
You have a follow-up?
So we can apply to the ministry to make a change for a waste diversion purpose.
I was,
Not until we change our license.
Okay, because I just asked and you said no.
No, we can't.
Okay,
And well, we can if we get another license. So if we get that within the 2 years, if our consultants say we can expand our dump, that will change our license. Then we can reapply then for different things that we might not have now, like composting, different hours, different days, that kind of thing. But right now, we have a term.
yeah.
and that's the Ontario Ministry of Environment.
Yes.
Okay.
They grant,
Sounds like we have some archaic problems that we have to deal with at a different level of government.
well, they do grant the licenses, though, MOE, right? Okay.
I just wondered if you say for something like a rocking chair, I think it's probably a $5 fee to bring them to the market. If you put like a sign that says, please take me, doesn't that negate the scavenging part of it? Like it makes it not a scavenging item. Because it's-
Put it on your lawn, put it on your driveway.
Yeah.
You know, or your-
And it's on our property.
Yeah, I understand, but I think Mayor, like, you know, this is one where Ministry of Environment grants a license, so there's certain things you can do, you can't do. And that's it. There's no-
Like, I used to live in South River and it was called the Macro Mall. And I mean, we took everything there, until they had 40 different sets of encyclopedias. And then they said, don't bring any more of those shit books, but we took everything, and it worked really well, but they had an old license. They were able to do that.
Got about 15 minutes up, we're a little ahead of schedule. If there's any other comments or questions related to the strategic planning exercise or any of that, if there was anything that I can appreciate, and that a lot of people haven't seen the strategic plan, it is available.
Yeah, it's my fault.
Look. But we covered the main sections of that tonight. And just wondering if there's any.
It's nothing we said, that's the fire call.
Yes.
Okay.
There's somebody, I saw him. Yes.
I was just gonna say, backtracking a bit to the pickleball court thing.
Yeah.
That's something we've done on like our 5-year plan for the rec committee as multi-use service. It's coming, and it's take time, but
Yeah, we really, if you get a chance, join the YouTube and really find out what's going on with the rec community and open it up, because we're talking about all this stuff all the time. We'll get an idea of what's going on.
Really feels like that's changed in the last few years too, right?
Yes.
It's like completely, what people are interested in, right? Playing ball field anymore, changing pickleball, things like that. Good time for input.
We really want kids to have some place to go, right? The kids to have, and adults to have some place to go and some place to do something, that you want to do or can do. So, but again, it goes back to what it's money. Right? And how do we come up with it? And where does the money come from? So we have to be very strategic. We have to be very strategic.
And with the strategic plan for recreation, and we can apply for grants as they come up, because we have the projects established. So that's what we're working towards.
That's a great point Chris brought up, why we're all here. I think you have something to say about that. But when you make any sort of funding application, any of the funding bodies, whether it's provincial or federal funds that you tap into, they want to see your strategic plan. Where is this in your plan and how does it fit in? So that's part of what you're doing here tonight to help form that. Potentially help tap in some funds that if it's pickleball court, maybe it's something else in the future. Oh, I got, sorry.
I was gonna ask a question. Maybe I missed it. Is there anything, again, talking about these short-term rentals or Airbnbs, or is that anywhere in the strategic plan? And I can look at it at all.
We are looking at it.
We're working towards it.
A number of townships have got together and we're looking at it jointly to see, because, and it was so funny because in correspondence this week at our council meeting next Tuesday, I don't know what the name of the township is, but they're pushing, and I hope that we will support this. We are at our next council meeting, they're pushing the provincial government because Toronto has their rules, Barrie has their rules. There's no consistency whatsoever. It sounds like you're recycling. There's no consistency whatsoever. We're trying to work with our neighboring townships to come up with a set of rules. And right now the CAOs are working through this. And I mean, we've been out, I've talked to some people and their comment was, well, the numbers are down this year, so who gives a shit, because pandemic's over and some people, their business has dropped 50%, but it hasn't stopped. And we need to have a set of rules for this township and every other township. And I don't just mean here, I mean through the whole province. So this township has sent a resolution out saying, we want the provincial government to come up with consistent rules, for the entire province. And we'll look at that, but in the meantime, yes, we are looking at it. It's not part of the strategic plan because it's going to be out before that. And, but they're working on it.
As long as it's on the radar, that's what I wanted to hear. I don't.
It's so on the radar.
Okay.
It's been on the radar for years.
We
For
didn't want
years.
the township to end up in a bad position because, we've been installing. At least it's there and it's going to be addressed. So
The pandemic started it, I think, really put it into a higher gear. And it's definitely there and everybody's gonna have to, there's gonna have to be rules and whatever. but it's so difficult because like Dave and I are on Nipissing, it's a pretty big lake, where we have small lakes like Ruth Lake and Wolf Lake. And to have the same rules for both is difficult because here they can go out 5 miles out or 10 miles out, make a hell of a pile of noise, and I'm never gonna hear them, but they're gonna hear that if you're in the middle of any of those other lakes. So that's where the problem comes up, and we're working on it, let's put it that way.
Yes, sir. So who are the neighboring communities we're working with and how many meetings have been had to date?
So the local CAO group is Mattawa, Matawan, Capitol, Cameron,
Chisholm,
Bonfield, Calendar, Watson, Calvin. I think that's all. Send it to.
Calendar, yeah, you said that.
We usually meet monthly, we don't in the summer. We're meeting to discuss specifically the short-term rentals and come forward with all of these samples and all of the research we've done for September.
How many meetings have we had?
We have one a month.
You
But we
said
don't
that,
meet
but
in
how
the
many
summer.
have we had?
No, they're clerk meetings.
Yeah, no, so you're saying you're working with neighboring communities.
4, 5,
And you've said who they are. How many meetings have we attended?
6.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe,
I missed one.
the staff let me know that they've also collected the bylaws from all of the provinces, existing municipalities. So the research is happening. Trying to come up with a solution.
So I'm just curious, do we have a noise bylaw? And if not, why? Why can't it be
I'll
created?
give you one example, okay? 2 of us are sitting here, we cut wood, okay?
No, I'm referring to like 11 o'clock at night, you're not out cutting wood
Well,
then.
11 o'clock at night, again, from 11 to 7, we did clarify it, the OPP said, yes, that's a provincial statute, that there's supposed to be no noise between 11 and 7, okay? That's the province of Ontario, so you call the OPP. Now, if we bring in a noise bylaw though, that, and some have it where it's no excessive noise during the daytime, that kind of thing, I'm not cutting wood anymore, because my neighbor's gonna say, what the hell, you cut wood for 5 hours for 4 days in a row?
I think our concern is more with
Yeah,
nighttime.
and I understand it, 11 to 7, and that's supposed to be the OPP. But again, when we call them, they say you don't have a noise bylaw. We don't need a noise bylaw between 11 and 7. We clarified that since our last meeting,
And I think you can also, instead of calling it a noise bylaw, call it a disturbance complaint.
You can do that as well.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wonder if, is it considered the same thing when it's not too noisy, but people beside you are using terrible language and playing music with terrible, things in it, and there's children that have no choice but to hear that while they're playing in their front yard. Like things like that, that's not really noise, it's more.
It's allowed to be
disturbance.
considered
a disturbance under the criminal code. So that would be a disturbance? Should we call the bylaw officer for that?
Please, for the criminal code, it's the OPP. For a disturbance call.
Oh, the town, no, that's totally, if they tell you that, you say, no, I want an officer here, because it's a criminal code. So when you call in your disturbance complaint, you don't tell them what's going on, except that somebody's getting killed next door.
And if they're refusing service to the name of the operator, and you can lodge a complaint about the OPP's policy. I'll go shoot that. Thank you.
I
Okay,
can
folks.
say something.
Yes, sir.
LPG,
Yeah.
something near to my heart. About 20 to 30% of frontline officers don't show up every night. First of all, they prioritize calls. So if you've got a missing kid and the walls, they're not gonna come out because the car is going too fast down the outside, right? They're gonna prioritize. Then you gotta look at the staff shortages, which are severe, have been forever. And a couple of us, back to one call, we got 2 officers on duty. One call requires 2 officers, nobody left.
That's what we need support from.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean we won't call, we need to know we need them.
You have to pay for it.
Yep.
Pay more, need more officers.
You're right. There's a shortage. If you look for what we pay, and it sounds exorbitant, that's only the salaries for 3 police officers. No guns, no cars, no anything. That's 3 officers.
And they're uniform.
And they're, so exactly, you're right. It's really tough,
So I just have one more question for you. Is there any chance that we can do any type of a rural neighborhood watch program with signage?
There's cottage watch now.
Pardon me?
There's cottage watch.
We can certainly look at it because I've seen those signs. I've seen the one with the owl on it and it says rural neighborhood watch. We could definitely look into that.
I think that would be
Not a
something
problem.
that,
I know that different cottage associations have cottage watches. So sure, not an issue, and that's what we're here for tonight. Or things like that,
okay, thank you.
Last comments before we wrap up, anything, worship, you want to say anything to the masses?
Yeah, okay. Give me the old deep hole. Okay, first of all, I know I live on a rock and the heat was radiating off that today, so as when I say I appreciate the comments, I also appreciate the air conditioning today. So, and if it was too cold, it won't be when you get out of here. So, and honestly, 32 years of teaching school, Rhonda knows you get a kind of, well, so does Nora. You started getting a thicker skin. After I got out of teaching, though, I thought, why, what you mentioned tonight, that sounds like a real fish session. But anyway, we will certainly look at it in the future, But I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight because it is a beautiful night. You could have been at your cottage or someplace else or trying to have a walk on the Alsace, but I believe the deer flies and eat you alive. I appreciate your remarks, suggestions, input. We'll attempt to incorporate it in our strategic plan. We're gonna work over these items. We have our meetings Tuesday nights and next Tuesday night. They're always on YouTube. I don't know how to get to YouTube, but I do know how to get here. So if you ever want to come here on a Tuesday night and just listen, because as you pointed out, unless you have a delegation, you just can't talk, jump up and start yelling. But we're here before and after, and sometimes we chat with people.
What time do they normally start?
Pardon?
What time?
6:30. 6:30. Yep. You're always welcome in it. Like I said, it's on YouTube as well. We're gonna work through this and hopefully we're gonna have something in the fall and it'll come out as a draft plan and you can look at it and we'll be asking for comments again. And the other thing, again, we have one bylaw enforcement officer and he's out fighting fire right now. So if you have an issue right now, you're definitely not gonna get a bylaw officer and evidently, I know I have a nephew that's OPP. They're pretty short supply during the summer as well because they also take things like holidays and make things even shorter staffed. So, so it's complaint driven. We have a complaint form and I can assure you that when you put in a complaint, I mean, again, if it's obvious, his outhouse is on my property, they probably are gonna figure out it's you. But otherwise, it's totally anonymous, So, and we are complaint driven because we do not have the staff to do it any other way, And not in your head, evidently in your township it was the same thing.
Right.
You don't have the staff to do it. But we try. And I know sometimes you don't think we try hard enough, but we do try to the best of our abilities, and that's why I say some of us just don't have a lot of abilities. So thank you for coming tonight. We can stay right till late if you want to stay here and be cool. And if not, you're free to go and maybe we would have more people if we had free lunches and drinks, but we don't have either. So thank you all for coming. Yes, sir.
I think we should all be thankful it's not snowing. Can you imagine shoveling snow and all this heat?
Exactly. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, before you. A-N-T-Z.
And then Chris is sitting there. And talk about all the down there. He is. Yeah, he but now, we're folded in.